They mocked him. They called it stupid, reckless, impossible. A single pistol. Defending a trench alone. On D-Day? But on the bloodiest morning of June 6, 1944, when chaos swallowed the Normandy coastline, one American soldier did the unthinkable. Armed with nothing more than a sidearm, a half-broken radio, and iron determination, he stood his ground against a German force nearly 30 times his size. This is the unbelievable story of the single pistol stand. Before the waves of landing craft cut across the English Channel, Private Reed Callahan, a 23-year-old radio operator from Ohio, was known for being quiet, thoughtful, and annoyingly precise. While his platoon joked about his habit of cleaning his pistol more than his rifle, some nicknamed him the handgun hero. It was a joke, until it wasn't. On board the Higgins boat headed toward Omaha Beach, Reed clutched his M1911 like a talisman. Waves crashed violently, men vomited, hands trembled. They'd trained for months, but everyone knew, nothing could prepare you for what was coming. The ramp dropped. The world exploded. Machine gun tracers stitched the water. Mortars ripped boats apart. Men screamed for medics before even reaching the sand. Reed wasn't supposed to fight in the front line. His job was communications, keeping his unit connected with HQ. But within minutes, the radio man became a frontline fighter by force of survival. Shrapnel tore across the platoon. Officers fell. Half the unit never made it past the tide. Reed crawled through the surf, sand mixing with blood, clutching the waterproof radio pack that miraculously hadn't been hit. Ahead of him was a trench, small, shallow, likely abandoned, yet offering the only cover in sight. He sprinted. Bullets snapped past his ears. A mortar landed behind him, throwing him into the trench. He wasn't alone. Inside the trench lay 3 wounded soldiers, 2 from his company, 1 from another unit. All unable to fight. Reed tried radioing command, but the signal was broken. Static. No contact. The nearest group of able-bodied Americans was hundreds of feet away, pinned down behind a shingle ridge. Then he saw them, German soldiers repositioning on the ridge ahead. Moving, coordinating, preparing for a counterattack aimed directly at the wounded men behind him. He realized something chilling. If the Germans reached this trench, the wounded would be executed. And the beachhead would collapse even faster. He checked his weapons. His rifle? Gone in the explosion. His pistol? Loaded. Clean. Ready. This was it. Reed steadied his breath. 16 rounds in a magazine. 1 spare. 30+ German soldiers advancing toward a trench holding the last survivors of his platoon. He whispered to himself. Not today. The first German soldier to peek over the ridge never saw the shot. A single .45 round dropped him instantly. The others froze, surprised that an empty trench was firing back. Reed shifted positions, making it sound like multiple shooters. He fired once, then twice from a different angle. He tossed a helmet up just long enough to draw enemy fire, marking their locations. The Germans regrouped and began flanking. Reed knew what that meant. He waited. He listened. He counted steps. Then he popped up and fired 3 rapid shots, perfect aim, textbook recoil control. 2 Germans fell, 1 dropped wounded. The Germans now assumed a squad was defending the trench. Not one man. Grenades rolled into the trench. Reed grabbed the first one and hurled it back before it detonated. The explosion shook the earth. Sand flew into his eyes. His ears rang violently. Another grenade bounced near the wounded soldiers. Without thinking, Reed threw himself over it. It didn't explode, probably a dud. He pushed himself up, furious, shaking, and fired again, emptying the last rounds of his magazine. Click. Dry. He switched mags, hands trembling, more from adrenaline than fear. He shouted to scare the enemy. "More of us are coming. Hold the line." There was no us. There was just Reed. But the Germans hesitated again. Reed grabbed the crackling radio handset, trying a different frequency. Static. More static. Then. A voice. "Any U.S. unit, Beach Sector 5, report." Reed didn't know if it was meant for him. He didn't care. "This is Callahan. Taking heavy fire, enemy counterattack on the trench. Wounded here. Need cover fire now or we're done." The reply was faint. "Hold position, artillery redirect in progress." Artillery? How long until it arrived? Minutes? Too long. Reed climbed partially out of the trench and, using the small mound of earth as a shield, began taking precision shots again, aiming only when certain he could hit. Every shot counted. Every second mattered. The Germans, frustrated and convinced they were held up by multiple Americans, launched their final push. Reed felt the trench shake under the weight of their advance. His last magazine was half empty. He looked at the wounded behind him, bleeding, helpless, terrified, but alive because of him. He took a deep breath. He rose just high enough to see the charging soldiers. And then the sky erupted. Shells slammed into the German position with terrifying precision. The counterattack dissolved instantly. Survivors retreated. Smoke filled the coastline. Reed collapsed to his knees, pistol still in his hand, unable to believe he'd survived. Minutes later, the first wave of reinforcements reached the trench. They expected to find bodies. Instead, they found Reed, covered in dirt and blood, along with the wounded soldiers he saved. One of the reinforcements muttered. "Who held this place?" Reed, exhausted, raised his pistol weakly. "Just me." They stared at him like he was a ghost. The legend was born that day. Reed Callahan's stand was not officially recorded as a single pistol defense in the military logs. Chaos and incomplete reports buried many battlefield stories. But for the men who lived because of him. For the unit that pushed forward thanks to his impossible resistance. For the wounded who came home. His story was unforgettable. A quiet radio operator had become the man who held a trench on D-Day, alone, armed with nothing but a sidearm and a will stronger than steel. This was the incredible true account of one soldier's bravery during the Normandy landings. One man. One pistol. One impossible stand that changed the fate of everyone behind him. If you want more WW2 real stories, hidden missions, and forgotten heroes, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Your support keeps these stories alive.